Good afternoon, everyone. Um, really glad to have you all join us today. For introductions, my name is Lori Atkinson, and I'm the Regional Manager for Libro Credit Union in the Windsor-Essex region. And I have several colleagues joining me on the call today. I have Marty Rops, our Regional Manager in our Huron-Perth region, and Carolina Triana, who is our Purpose Integration Specialist. And there's also some other lovely ladies of Libro working very hard behind the scenes to make all of this happen. So thank you to them. We are really excited to join you virtually here today to share information about Libro's annual granting program and to have with us one of our former grant recipients who will be sharing their experience with all of you today. There will be a Q&A period after the presentation, but please feel free to write your questions in the chat as we speak, and we will address them then, or you can also ask your questions during the Q&A period. So big welcome to everybody, and if you so desire, please pop in the chat who you are and where you're from. So Libro Credit Union is banking with the difference. At Libro, everything we do is with the goal of growing prosperity in our communities. That's the Libro purpose, to grow prosperity by transforming banking in Southwestern Ontario. And that means we have a purpose beyond profit. As a full-service financial institution, we serve more than 110,000 customers who we call owners at Libro through a network of digital services and 36 physical locations. We are devoted to the idea that everyone can prosper if we all work well together. When you deal with Libro, you know that 100% of the revenue is earned right here in Southwestern Ontario, and 100% of the profits remain here as well. We deliver on our purpose by helping people in the region be more financially resilient, be adequately and safely and affordably housed, meaningfully employed, and food secure. Those are our Libro pillars. We want our owners, our customers, and the communities we serve to be better off because of what we do. People's lives should become richer, their goals more defined, and their future brighter. We know that we can't do this all alone. That's why we support and partner with the organizations like the ones you represent here today that share our passion for making a positive impact in the communities that we serve. And that we are helping address some of the most challenging issues in Southwestern Ontario. So community investment is one of the ways that we positively impact our communities. And we want to highlight that we use our products and services, our operations, our business practices, our profits, our partnerships and collaborations to grow prosperity and live our purpose. Some of the ways we do that is Libro is a living wage employee. We're also a certified B Corporation, and that has been since 2018. And for those of you not familiar with this, it means that we joined a global movement of companies using their business as a force for good. Every 3 years, we go through an assessment that is a third-party verified assessment that evaluates how Libro's operations and business model impacts our workers, our community, our environment, and our customers. Being certified means that we are holding ourselves accountable to our purpose, measuring our progress, and living our values each and every day. If you're interested, you can learn more about our impact by visiting our website at libro.ca. We have committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion practices and are continuing to learn in this space. We're also working on climate change action, and doing work to understand our operational and financed emissions in order to inform our action plans. Libro is also the first Canadian credit union to exclusively offer responsible investments through our partners at NEI Investments. So we are really excited to run through our annual granting program for 2023. Through this program, Libro funds initiatives helping address local priorities aligned with our pillars. And I'll take a moment right now to speak to some of our pillars, our overarching pillar of financial resilience. So, our goal is to help improve the financial capacity and resilience of people, businesses, and organizations within our service area. The types of initiative that we support under this pillar include helping those to build financial knowledge, skills, and confidence of individuals and families, and those that promote economic self-reliance for marginalized members of the community. Our next pillar is employment, and our goal is to help increase productive employment and decent work for all, reducing the talent shortage, supporting agriculture and small business, including social enterprises and cooperatives. The types of initiatives that we support under this pillar include those that promote self-employment, entrepreneurship, small business startups, development, and growth. Those providing employment or pre-employment training and skills development for people, including youth and people with employment barriers. And those that promote and strengthen mission-based businesses, cooperatives, social enterprises, and community-owned businesses. And right now, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Marty Rops, who will take you through the remaining pillars.
Thank you, Lori, and good afternoon, everybody. Our next pillar, as you see on the screen, is housing. And I think we can all agree that this is, if not the biggest concern and challenge we have, definitely one of the biggest challenges that we have throughout our operating area. And for housing, our goal is to enhance access to adequate, safe, and affordable housing for all. The type of initiatives we support will include those working to increase the affordable housing supply, as well as those that help people in vulnerable housing situations transition to stable housing and independent living. And our fourth pillar is local food accessibility, as I think we all see that the challenge of food insecurity is growing every day. Our goal is to help improve food systems to increase access to local food for all. We support programs and projects that are promoting local and sustainable agriculture, those that support community gardens and farmers markets, those that support local food sector initiatives, as well as anything around food processing and distribution projects. We will select and fund projects aligned with the pillars and the goals mentioned. The types of initiatives listed, which you can also see on our website, are just examples. If your project aligns with the overall goal of the pillar and impacts Southwestern Ontario, you might be eligible for a grant. This year, we will invest $310,000 through this program, and grants will be between $5,000 to $20,000 per project. Local not-for-profit organizations, registered charities, municipalities, or public institutions, and unregistered community groups can apply. Application submissions must meet the criteria listed to be considered for funding. And here we have some examples of those types of projects that would not be eligible for funding. And one thing we do want to clarify here is that salaries to hire people to administer the programs is allowed. There is a lot of confusion that this is not permitted, when in fact it is. Paying someone to administer a program is normal and is expected and is permitted under the program. Examples of ongoing operational expenses are more around utility bills and ongoing monthly costs to run the business in general. And we want to support a program and not necessarily the day-to-day costs of an organization. And we have some important dates for people to keep in mind. The intake for the 2023 applications opened last week and will be open until May 26th, which is the deadline. Requests will be assessed based on alignment to our pillars, the intended impact of the initiative, as well as the stability and governance of the organization. Applications are reviewed by locally elected owner representatives, so people in our communities who are well aware of the challenges in the organizations. Applicants will be notified if the application is declined or approved by the end of August. Grant recipients must sign the funding agreement by a specific date, and funds will be dispersed in October. The grant recipient also agrees to provide a report 6 months after receiving the funding and a final report at the end of the project that summarizes the results achieved. And in addition to our grants program, Libro has a sponsorships, donations, and partnerships program. Applications for these programs are open all year round, so keep that in mind if the timing of the annual grants don't work for your organization or projects. Through sponsorships and donations, Libro provides in-kind and financial support up to $20,000 for local initiatives and events that are aligned with our pillars. Applications for $20,000 or more will be reviewed as impact partnerships. Libro partners with organizations that help us advance our strategic social purpose in Southwestern Ontario, creating measurable outcomes in the areas we have defined, that we have identified as our pillars. At this time, we're very, very happy to have one of last year's grant recipients here with us to share their impact story with us. This was an applicant from my region up in here on Perth, and I welcome Miriam Scoot from Facile Perth to share her story.
Thank you, Marty. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Miriam Schut, and I am the lead independent facilitator for Facile Perth, and I'm very glad that I have the opportunity to share a little bit about our project and about the process of getting a Libro grant. So next slide, please. So I'm going to start with just a little bit of explanation, who we are, what we do, and why we applied for a Libro grant, and then I'm going to share some information about our project and our outcomes. Next slide. So we are Facile Independent Planning and Facilitation Perth. Short is Facile Perth, that's kind of the name we go by. And we provide independent facilitation and person-directed planning in the Perth and Huron counties. And we do that for people with developmental disabilities and dual diagnosis. So what we do is we help people build a meaningful life in community. And we share lots of important information so that people can make good decisions for themselves. And we help people kind of plan their life. So we help them set goals and we help them achieve those goals by making community connections. And we often see that our work is really valuable in times of change. So for example, when people with developmental disability are leaving high school, when they might want to leave the family home, or in times of crisis. So why did we apply for a Libro grant? So to explain a little bit about why Facile thought it was important for us to apply for a Libro grant, I'm going to share a little bit about developmental services. So a lot of people think that people with a developmental disability are taken care of in our province, which is unfortunately not the case. Once someone turns 18 and they have a developmental disability, they have to go through a process through the Developmental Services Ontario, and then they're being put on waitlist. Just to give you an example, waitlist for a group home is currently around 26 years. They will receive a little bit of funding to purchase services, including support workers to help them be part of their community. The minimum amount is $5,500. The max amount is about $45,000. That's for people who need a ton of support. And you can imagine that is not enough. So Facile fits in that developmental services, and we were a funded organization until a few years ago, and then we got a new government, and since then we don't receive any funding. So we are now, next slide, a nonprofit charitable organization, and we rely solely on donations and grants. Lots of families in Perth and Huron kind of need that support to navigate the system and don't receive that sufficient funding, so they're often stuck. There is a need, we have the expertise, but there is no funding. So when we were looking for grants, what we constantly are doing is when we looked at Libro, we found that Libro supports organizations that are making a positive local impact, helping address some of the most challenging issues. And we felt that that's what we do. We also always look at how difficult is an application process. And I can tell you the Libro application process is easy and quick. After our application, we were invited to do a presentation, and that's when we really felt like this is such a good fit. They really cared about helping people and were really interested in learning more about our organization. And when we were successful, they also offered, like, if there's anything that we can do to help you, please reach out. And we did. Next slide, please. So for our project, we do two projects. So we offer webinars, and we're providing that independent planning and facilitation. So far, we have done 2 webinars. The goal is to educate and provide families and other interested parties information about financial programs and resources. So the Registered Disability Savings Plan is a wonderful resource to many families, but there's very limited information about this. So I reached out to Marty to check if they might be able to help us with this webinar, and they were able to help us, and they offered this webinar. We also just recently did an information out about Ontario Disability Support Program, and next month we're doing one about passport funding. And then in the fall, we're hoping to do a webinar about Developmental Services Ontario. Next slide. So in terms of our independent planning and facilitation, we are providing short-term support to more than 15 individuals now. The support includes providing families with community resources. We are helping them brainstorm about interest, community places, and support needs, and what they can do in terms of next steps. We've also been helping the developmental sector Ontario to kind of help them brainstorm and share our resources with them in regards to individuals who have support needs. And then we're providing some long-term support to approximately 11 individuals. This morning, I just received another email from the school board to ask if we can help a student with some planning for after high school. Next slide. So why has this grant been so important for us? So we have not had to say no to anyone knocking on our door, and that is so huge for us because these people often don't have the funding. If they receive funding from the developmental sector, then it's often very limited, and they have to make a choice if they have to purchase supports for their son or daughter in order to be able to go to their job so that they can pay their bills, then that's where that funding goes to. So recent numbers, this is from the winter 2022-2023, has shown that in Huron and Perth, 350 people are not using their passport funding. And so that just shows that there's a huge gap in that service. And sometimes people just need some help navigating the system and help them apply for financial and support resources, and then they're good to go. Some people have longer support needs, but sometimes it's a couple of meetings and they're good to go. So to just kind of share a little bit of information about or some examples of the work that we've done. So we're doing some long-term planning and facilitation for a family that the primary caregiver has pretty significant health issues and needs to have surgery. So we've been creating a support plan so that the individual with the developmental disability is well supported during the hospital stay and the recovery. And we're also exploring housing and supports for when this young person is going to move out of the house. And that includes medical needs management because there are some health concerns with that individual as well. We've supported the family whose family member with a developmental disability had some possible police charges, which was a very stressful time for this family. So we helped them navigate the services and the rights of the individual, and we've connected them to the appropriate services, and we helped them advocate for their loved one. Next slide. We also work with a recently housed individual who has been homeless for several months, and we've been able to keep him housed by introducing lots of supports. That took a lot of time because this person is not too keen on receiving support, but he now has a case manager. He is using his passport funding, and we help him when any issues arise. A young person with no developmental disability, but this is the beauty of the program. We can help anyone who knocks on our door. Someone with a mental health diagnosis who was really stuck and really wasn't leaving the house, we've been able to connect him to a volunteer program. He's been volunteering every week now. He's working on his high school diploma. We found him a mentor who sits with him every week to work on that high school diploma, and he's looking at finding employment now with an employment agency. And then my last example is we're just recently started working with a family with a child with fetal alcohol syndrome, which is very difficult to find the right supports. So this family felt really lost. So we're helping them connect to all those services that are available to them and to specific fetal alcohol syndrome resources. So our expected outcomes is that the families, then the individuals that we work with, have created a vision for their loved one's future, that families and individuals are aware of community resources and connections specific to Huron and Perth, and that families feel supported and know what their next steps are and who they can contact. So this Libro grant has been such an incredible gift to our organization and individuals that we work with because of their very limited funding. And we have really been able to provide them with the support needed to live a better life in community. So thank you so much to Libro. We really, really appreciate your support. And it has been a really good partnership. So thank you. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
There are a couple of questions on the chat that I'm gonna read for you, Marianne.
Okay.
One of the questions is regarding, is there a recording of the RDSP webinar? Our family has questions, and I think they would like to watch the recording.
Yes, there is a recording. So people could probably easiest is to email me at info@facileperth.ca. Maybe someone can put that in the chat. I don't think I have access to the chat, so I don't think I can put it in, but it's info@facileperth.ca, and then I'm happy to send that link.
Thank you, Miriam. And the other is just a comment. Really good work, Facile. This kind of work is important. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
Thanks, Miriam. Miriam made a reference to the fact that Facile was asked to come and do a presentation, and coming in to do a presentation or be part of an interview could potentially be part of the process because it'll allow our elected reps to learn more about the organization, learn more about the project, an opportunity to answer any questions that we might have. In this particular case, none of us had ever heard of Facile Perth. We were unaware of the organization and the work that they did. And of all the interviews that I've been a part of over the years, their presentation was definitely the most impactful for all of us who were there for that presentation. And for me personally, probably more so because I learned that one of the individuals and families that Facile has supported is a family that I know in my hometown of Mitchell, and just gave me a bit of a glimpse into the struggles that they've had, and just great to see that there's an organization like Facile Perth out there to support them. At this point, I'm going to pass the baton back to Carolina. She is going to review some of the questions that have been in the chat, and I encourage people to continue to ask questions in the chat as well.
Thank you, Marty, and thank you everyone who has posted questions in the chat. So I'm going to read them. Even though I have answered them in the chat for those who are not reading them there, and also for the recording, those who will watch this recording later, they won't have access to the chat. So the first question is, if we are developing a program in need of funding, which has a focus on mental health, would this be eligible? So certainly can be eligible as long as the program has any connections to one of our pillars. We understand some of these issues are not isolated. You know, when we talk about financial resilience or mental health or housing, sometimes you need, you know, wraparound support. So as long as there is connection to one of our pillars, the program may be considered for a grant. Next question is about an organization which helps new immigrants to Canada, and they're asking if they can apply for more than a grant, since they run projects for both housing and employment opportunities. So only one application per organization per year can be eligible for a grant in our program. So what I would do is encourage those organizations who may have more than one program that aligns with our pillars to look at their website and apply for the one project that you think most closely align with our goals. And Patricia is asking if they run a farmers market on Pili Island and need funds for an administrator. They're asking if they can apply for funds to be used retroactively for the market in the summer. So unfortunately, retroactive expenses are not eligible for funding. We would not fund. We only fund projects that will take place after we have provided the funding. Can we receive funding from a grant as well as a sponsorship from Libro? We had a couple of questions up around this. And yes, an organization can apply for a grant or for a sponsorship in the same year, as long as the project is different. It's not the same project. And a couple of difference between our two programs is, as we mentioned, for annual grants, our owner representatives who are representatives of our customers, that we have owners and live in the communities that where we operate. They make the decisions about our grants. And for our sponsorships, those are internal decisions. So there are a few little differences with our programs, but the pillars are common in both. So as long as the programs that you're applying for funding are connected to the pillars and it's not the same, you can apply under each one of those streams. And I think we have 3 new questions. And Rebecca, I'm going to publish this. Her question is for Marty, but I will answer that if you don't mind, Marty. Rebecca is asking if Libro would prefer programs that are located close to a branch. For example, they're considering applying for a project that would serve St. Mary's and area. So we certainly would prefer programs or only fund programs that are located in southwestern Ontario. How close to the branch doesn't make a difference as long as the community that is benefited is in southwestern Ontario. If funds are dispersed in October, what are the typical start dates for programs? So this varies, and as long as the program starts after the funds are received, we're flexible. We understand sometimes programs are planned to start, for example, in towards the end of the year or January of the next year, and circumstances happen. And as long as we maintain communication, and if anything changes, you let us know why the program started maybe delayed, we're flexible with that. But we don't have a specific kind of hard time on when the program needs to start. I have another one. I think these are a couple of questions in one, and is there a Libro staff person whom I can speak with to discuss our proposed program or project? Yes, you are welcome to reach out to communityinvestment@libro.ca, and we will respond to your question, either myself or I will connect you to one of our regional managers from the area where your organization is located to discuss the program. And if you prefer funding, when has the project or program to be completed? Can the project be for multiple years? We through our annual programs, we don't provide multi-year funding. So only one-time support, like for the particular program, but if the project runs over 2 years, that's okay, as long as that's clearly stipulated in the application. And then Bia is asking, would a project that educates and entertains the public in demonstrating the need for better housing, financial resilience, and food security be eligible? This is not enough information. As long as the projects and the objectives are connected to our pillars, we may consider the project, but I can tell you for sure based on your question. So yeah, in general, alignment to our goals would certainly have the project included for consideration. And those are, oh, we have a new one. Yes, I'm going to put in the chat my contact information or the email where if you have any specific questions about your program, you can connect. So it is community investment at libro.ca. Thank you very much. Those are all wonderful questions, and I'm sure if there were in somebody's mind, many people benefited from that question. So thank you very much for posting it in our chat. Let's keep them coming. We have one more. Does the project need to be a new one, or can the funding support an existing project? The funding can support an existing project, certainly. And we encourage you to include in your application any results that you have about the project and again, how it connects to our goals and how it would impact the community. But yeah, that is possible. Okay, we have another question. Can you please define financial resilience for clarity with examples? Of course. So what we mean, or our goal when we're talk about supporting projects that support financial resilience, we think about supporting the financial capacity and resilience of people, businesses, and organizations. So helping people, in my own words, I would say navigating the ups and downs and being prepared for unexpected circumstances, also supporting people with the financial skills they may need to make better financial choices. So anything that would help people in the community be better off financially, but by providing any sort of guidance, support, and yeah, so I hope that answers your question. Sometimes we get applications for important things that organizations are doing in the community, and the connection to financial resilience is sometimes based on we need the funding to be for our organization to be resilient and continue operating. That's not what we mean when we say support projects connected to financial resilience. Is that your clients, the people that you're serving, you are supporting them in being financially resilient. So I think that is an important thing to clarify and keep in mind. Yes, and Marty made an internal comment here that I will share. He was mentioning that Facil's birth application fell under the financial resilience pillar. So I will let you, Marty, speak to that.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Carolina. Yeah, I'll say a little bit about that, and Miriam, you can kind of pipe in if I'm saying something incorrectly. But a lot of the funds that were advanced to Facil last year allowed them to provide supports for families, as Miriam says, to navigate the system, to find where the grants are, where the supports are, whether it's through tax credits, whether it's through whatever it might be. Whether it's through the Registered Disability Savings Plan program. But the focus of their application was how can they help support families that are trying to navigate the system and find the grants and supports that are available to them. And Miriam, I'm hoping I summarize that well, and I'll let you make any corrections for me.
Yeah, and I think our project really falls under several pillars, right? So, but it's definitely what we see is a lot of people when we get connected is that they're not connected to ODSP, or they might have gone through the process for Developmental Services Ontario. Then they get all these complicated forms sent to them that they have to fill out in order for them to get the financial supports to hire support workers. Families are not aware of an RDSP or a Henson Trust, and they're not aware of a lot of these community resources that will help, like keeping people housed. Or so I think our project really falls under a lot of the things. Like our webinars are really kind of that financially based, and then our work is making sure that for sure those people are all set up with all those services, and looking at like what other services are out there so that they can be successful in life.
I was muted. That has to happen at least once in one of these sessions. We are on time. Thank you very much for your participation today, for all your questions. Thanks again, Miriam, for joining us and sharing the fantastic work that you have been doing, and that your organizations continue to do. And thank you also everybody on the back end on this call and our presenters today, Marty and Lori.